Hello and welcome to the A&R section and marketing section of the Crystal gig. Initially, this gig was meant to be marketed as a Christmas gig. I wanted to call it Crystalmas. And unfortunately, the bands thought it was a little bit too early in the month, so we abandoned that idea. The reason it was that date itself was because there was only 2 dates left in December, and one was the weekend just before Christmas, which was after all the students went home, and I thought it was best to do the gig when students were still in town. So in terms of the A&I process, the way that I went about booking Crystal themselves, I actually already knew that I wanted to book Crystal. I'd seen them at Expo North in July and I'd just fallen in love. I thought that they were really exciting. I thought that the fact that they were unsigned, but they just were really cool. Thought that they really fit into what I was trying to make, the Bangs That Mash brand. So I also found out that they hadn't really done a show. They'd never played at the Mash House before, and they also hadn't done a show with that size headline really at all, especially in Edinburgh. So it fits with the thing that I was trying to achieve, which was maybe putting on shows that other promoters might not. So in terms of actually getting them, they're managed by someone who works at Kingdom Management. It's turned out to be the first time and only time that I've had to deal directly with managers when booking the bands and through the whole process. I never really dealt with Crystal. It's definitely made for an experience, but there's information about that in the logbook. So because Crystal are part of this sort of, I don't want to say clique, but I do mean but not in a bad way, a clique in Glasgow with other bands. They all play together, they're all friends, share a lot of the same fan bases. Rosie, their manager, had sent me a bunch of suggestions. She said that we definitely needed a support band who were local, but she also wanted to get one of Crystal's friends on the bill. So she sent me a bunch of suggestions, again in my logbook, but the 2 bands who ended up getting selected were Gallus and Rituals. Gallus were from Glasgow, and they are very, very good friends of Crystal's. Whilst it might seem that booking bands who share the same fan base might be counterintuitive, actually it gives fans and friends more of a reason to come along to the gig. So I really felt that this was ideal. It was an ideal idea. And the Rituals, they had quite a strong fan base in Edinburgh. They've been around for a while. So I thought they would be a pretty solid pick to support Crystal with. Both of the bands had the same sort of grungy, punky vibe that Crystal have. Rituals more of a gothy vibe, but it definitely all fit into the same sort of genre sphere of the show, which is great because you don't want to surprise your audience members if they're into like poppy stuff, or if they're into rock and then they turn up and then there's pop, they'll be like... Anyway, it's really important to make sure that the lineup all fits together. So in terms of the marketing process, also 3 bands were on this bill as opposed to 2 bands that were at Sneaky Pete's, which was really important for me because I really feel it attributed quite bad. The lack of bands on the Sneaky Pete's bill, I think, actually attributed to the lack of ticket sales. So it's really important to get 3 bands on this bill. So the marketing process, unfortunately, due to events that I will go into in my logbook, the gig was not announced until the 16th of November, which meant that I really needed to get a move on with the marketing. Now, none of my gigs have a strict marketing plan. There's no set timeline that I followed because every single one sort of got booked at different times, and it wouldn't have actually happened. It would have been planning for no reason. But I did make a mental plan, obviously, once each show's announced. So the show initially gets announced on my own page, on the Bangers and Mash page, and then gets shared on the Mash House page, which has a following of 11,500 followers now. So it's a really wide reach that we're getting there. Obviously, both Crystal and Gallus were announcing it as well. The way that they announced it was actually really interesting. Crystal made up a little poem, which I thought really added to the grabbing users' attention. Really enjoyed that. And the reach on them was pretty good as well. Because it was such a short amount of time, we put some money behind the event to sponsor it. So that was put behind by the Mash House. And they basically they put money on a post. They put money on a post